Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's in Your Head podcast.
Digitized live from
Your company name here.
the studios in Cape Coral, Florida. It's the What's in Your Head podcast.
What's up, OG5? It's another episode of the What's in Your Head podcast. Boy, it's been a while. Is it the heat, the rain, or just the all-around crazy weather that just makes every day seem the fucking same right now? I mean, I don't even know what day it is. I think I asked you guys on Sunday if you're ready to do a show this week. I have no idea what day it is.
Hang on, we need to have a little therapy sesh. You okay there, Morgan? You all right?
Am I okay? I'm always okay.
I don't know. Just before we started the show, we were trying to get the sound check, and you. Normally, you got a lot to say when we pop up on video, but you were just like. Hi.
I can't remember what Shakespeare play it was because in the 5th grade at my elementary school, we did like a montage play. Obviously, you're not going to have a bunch of 5th graders doing fucking 5-page plays. So we did like a montage thing. And in one of the Shakespeare play has to do, it's a play about a play, right? And there's a cowardly person who's playing a wall in between two lovers. And at the end, they lean in to kiss, and the retarded guy who plays the wall leans in, and they both kiss him on the side of the face. And at the end, he says, "He can't they love me." Well, that's what Morgan sounded like before the show. Hi guys. Woe is me. Woe is me.
We get a sound check there, Morgan.
Oh, bother.
Oh, bother. Winnie the Pooh.
Pin the tail on the Morgan.
Pin the tail on the
There you go.
Woe is me.
What's up, guys? It's been a couple weeks, right?
I had an interesting encounter. One of the jobs I've given myself, because I work 7:30 to 4:30. Sorry, I'm burping up meatloaf. It's one of those days.
Meatloaf.
And when you get off at a half-hour increment,
Love a good meatloaf.
it's kind of hard to really get started on something at 4 o'clock when you're walking out the door at 4:30. So what I tend to do is much like a lot of places, you kind of have a cleanup procedure. And so one of the things I opted to do was I empty out all the trash bags. I go around, collect everybody's trash, take it out. Now, where my building is, we all got to close our eyes and picture this mentally. Draw a square on your wall. Okay, this big square is the building that has multiple units in it. My door is at 3 o'clock on this big square clock of yours. I'm at 3 o'clock.
PM?
Yes, PM, AM, doesn't matter. At 3 o'clock, analog. If you guys can't read an analog clock, this is going to be a real hard participation for you listening at home. So, I don't know, just hold it out. For those of you who can read an analog clock, let's close our eyes, except for if you're driving. You can do this later. If you're sitting on the toilet, perfect. Close your eyes, picture a big square on the wall. At 3 o'clock is my door. And coming out at 3 o'clock, going all the way down to about 6 is a wheelchair ramp. So I have to walk out 3 o'clock, walk down the wheelchair ramp close to 6, and then hang at left and work my way all the way up from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go to the dumpster, which is about 11:45. And then make my way back. I.e., on the big campus that is our building complex, there's only one dumpster for everybody, regardless of what side of the one of the 4 buildings your unit's on. One trash can, centrally located around 11:45. So every day, around 4 o'clock, mostly every day, every once in a while I'm sick or I'm not there, but from damn sight, you can guarantee at least Monday through Thursday, if not Friday, I'm taking the trash out every day between 4 and 4:10. Whether it's boxes from when we receive 5, 10, 15 computers at one time and taking out trash, whatever. I'm always the guy who does it.
Yes, it is.
So today I'm taking the trash out, and I'm not kissing ass because my boss is in Detroit. I'm the only one at the office. Detroit.
Oh.
And I'm throwing 3 individual office trash can, like the little basket you slide underneath your desk. Not the big fucking half, kitchen trash can. Just a little 3-gallon bag. Got 3 of those in my hand, throw them in the dumpster. And I hear, there he is again, throwing stuff in our dumpster.
Oh, fuck.
Turn around, there's this dude and his wife standing next to his lifted truck, shoulder to shoulder. I look at him. He's mean mugging me. He says, I know you don't live here. I mean, I know you don't have a rental property here, but every day I see you throwing trash in this trash can. I said, excuse me? You heard me.
Sir?
I know you don't live here. What are you doing throwing trash in our trash can every day at 4 o'clock? And I tried to say my unit's on the side. Of course, I was getting him attitude because he was actually coming, instead of saying, hey, excuse me, what unit do you work in? 5. Why?
He was
hey,
coming at you hot.
I know you don't live here. I know you're not a renter. What are you doing being accusatory? I'm like, excuse me? And he repeats himself. As I try to say that my office is at 3 o'clock, keep in mind we're standing at 11:45, his wife jumps in. Because their unit is here, and directly across the patio is the unit of the people who own the complex. They actually own the buildings. They're rental property management, but these are their buildings. Yeah. And the manager, the owner, he sees you too, and he wants to know who you are. The owner? Yeah, he even they don't know who I am. Even though the owner's son comes over to our unit to talk to my boss about his Frenchies that he breeds. Even the owner's son, who when he sees me in said parking lot says, hey, did you guys bring the dogs? They're the ones who don't know who I am. Well, do you have a unit here or not? I'm like, who the fuck are you?
None of your goddamn business. How
I
about
said,
that?
I'm in the unit on the side. You're more than fucking welcome to follow me if you want. Of course they didn't. I'm thinking, if you're going to deputize yourself sheriff of the fucking dumpster, maybe you need to familiarize yourself with your fucking jurisdiction, if you will. There are 3 units on the back of this building where all of us have to make that long trek from 6 o'clock to fucking 11:45 to throw our trash in your dumpster. So
that's not their problem, Don.
Well, they're the ones who deputize themselves the fucking sheriff of the dumpster and all the
That's
fucking
right.
lies they perceive.
They don't know who you are. They don't see you, but they know that you come and dump your trash in their dumpster all the time. Keep in mind their dumpster.
How dumb
Yeah.
did she have to feel to say the owner doesn't even know? Really? The owner's son, by the way, is an adult. He wants a Frenchie. He's been trying to convince his wife for 6 months. My boss breeds them. So he's been at our unit plenty of time, and I'm there more than my boss is. Therefore, he knows me just as much as anybody. Oh, and by the way, when we first got our Beagle and I took the Beagle to work until she got big enough not to get beaten up by her dogs, I would take said Beagle and sit in the patch of grass on the side of our building for an hour at a time. It got to the point that the people who lived in the apartments across the street were apparently, he accused me of being a dirty apartment dweller because, yeah, I'm going to walk down past my apartment's dumpster, walk across the street through your parking lot and throw my trash in your dumpster. Apparently every day I get home at 4 o'clock and the first thing I do is take my trash across the street and throw it in the dumpster. But even those
multiple trash cans, not just one.
And not a hefty bag, not a kitchen bag. I only use little office can bags at my house. I'm the office fairy.
Yep.
To the point that the lady across the street came up to me and went, where's the Bailey at? Oh, she's big enough. There's people who walk the neighborhood routinely from when I used to take Bailey, and she's not Bailey, but Chloe. Same names are too damn similar. And I would take her out potty the same time every day. So the person and his wife who walked a mile every Tuesday at 9:15, even they know my fucking dog's name. But apparently, I'm the mystery of the night, the trash avenger. I'm fucking coming in there and victimizing their dumpster. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah.
You're standing in front of your office. How about you have a little decorum and professionalism? Just say, yo, real quick, what unit are you in? 5. Why? Oh, we just had issues with unauthorized trash dumping, and we want to... just don't come fucking swinging at me.
Well, first of all,
he's one of those
care?
too.
Why do you care?
He's one of
Why
those.
Why is it your
too.
problem? If you're that concerned, take it to the owner.
But the owner don't know who I am either. It's a big mystery. I'm like Darkwing Duck.
Fucking have the owner confront me. I do it at 4:30 every day. Why are you confronting me? Why don't you have the owner confront me?
Because he's one of those. Problem? He's one of those guys. You can tell he's lived down here about 14 years, but he still has a hint of the fucking New York accent. He's one of those guys. He's one of those. Don't mess with me. I'm from the fucking, I'm from wherever, fucking Manhattan or whatever. You come at me your New York attitude, I'll come at you with my fucking Kentucky holler attitude. I was not having it. I just like who
I'll come at you with Florida Man.
I'll come at you with the Lehigh surprise.
Lehigh surprise.
Morgan, when was the last time you were publicly accosted by a Ken or a Karen?
I don't know that I can actually pick a scenario like
Because it
that.
happens to him all the time.
Where I encountered it was on my Facebook neighborhood page, and I've since got off it because it was driving my blood pressure up. But we had kids driving golf carts and people, on there bitching up a storm about it. And then one neighbor let his grass get a little too long. Might have had,
Oh no.
a couple of broke down vehicles, and it wasn't me. It could be me,
Are
but it
you
wasn't me
sure? This time.
this time. Well, they say every neighborhood has a bad neighbor, and if you don't know who it is,
It's
you
you.
might want to think about it.
Or like they said on Justified,
But,
if you run into an asshole in the morning, you ran into an asshole. If you run into assholes throughout the day, you're the asshole.
Yeah, exactly. But this guy, everybody kind of started piling on about how his grass was bad and his adult son was a pile and whatever. And I couldn't I couldn't help myself. I got on there and I said, "Hey, has anybody ever gone and knocked on the guy's door, made sure that, he's an old guy. I mean, did he have a heart attack? Is there a reason why he's not mowing his grass?" "Well, he's just not mowing his grass." I said, "Well, did you call code enforcement?" "Well, no." And I'm like, "Okay, so call code enforcement." I said, "You don't have to get on here and bitch about it. There's,
And talk shit.
Keyboard
yeah,
warriors.
there's ways to get it handled." So then they start talking about, well, his adult son was drunk and backed into somebody's work truck. I said, "Well, last time I checked, DUI hit and run's a felony. Did somebody call the sheriff's office?" "Well, no." And I'm like, let's just face it. Y'all are bitching for the sake of bitching.
Yep.
Why don't you do something about it instead of just, getting
Talking
on here
shit.
talking shit?
Yep.
How dare you violate
Fucking
my
social
dumpster,
media.
sir?
But social media is the Wild West for shit talkers.
Well, it's the only
Oh,
place
yeah.
you
So
can.
much. There's also, but like, even years ago, like when commenting on stuff became really popular and it was still so new, people had so much anonymity that they could
Anonymity.
say whatever they want. But now, because it forces a lot of these places force you to have your first and last name. Like when Facebook first started, you could be boo boo kitty fuck. And
Well,
nobody
that's
gave a
because
shit.
in the 80s and 90s, when we all went online, all of us old fucks knew not to talk to strangers. And that's why we all had
Right.
handles. Just like when our parents were in their 20s and they're on the CB radio, they didn't say, "Hey, this is Don Abernathy." No, this is Boo Boo Kitty
Yeah.
Fuck 4000 checking in. Breaker Breaker 19.
Right.
But until
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah,
forced
our-
it, and
our
now,
parents.
and I bet you could get a hold of some fucking computer science security nerds, like a whole gaggle of them, and I guarantee you they can almost show you a actual line of demarcation from the time Facebook implemented people using their real identities to the increase of identity theft. Hands fucking down.
You're probably right. But as far as, stuff like that, like people have gotten so bold. It's like, say that in person. Go to that old man's house, knock on the door, and talk some shit. I guarantee you get a 6-shooter to the face. You know what I
As
mean?
you should.
But people, they can say that shit online because there is no repercussion,
Yep.
and that's
Well,
such bullshit.
It's like the meme says, you've never been punched in the mouth for talking shit, and it shows.
Right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Never had an older brother give you a bloody nose because you beat him in NBA 2000 on Super Nintendo. Oh, was that just me? Gordon fucking gave me a bloody nose one time. I beat him in a game.
No, my brother used to My brother used to whoop on me and give me a hard time because I used to delete his accounts on like Nintendo
Oh, that's
64 saves and
justified.
stuff like that. Well, I'd start playing the
He
game
probably
and
deserved an ass whooping for that.
he's progressed so far, and then all of a sudden his dickhead little brother starts playing it and it's ruining everything. All his stats and all that shit are gone.
I grew up in a neighborhood that the neighborhood war got so bad because there was potential of free property involved. So on our street, behind our street was a creek, but it didn't run completely parallel. It ran, once again, look at our box. We'll go from the bottom left-hand corner to a slow diagonal up towards the top. So it's kind of like a doorstop or a cheese wedge. And my parents' house was down on the skinny bit. And then as the street went up, the property grew wider and wider to potential someone getting a good fair amount of free property. And the reason they were going to get it for free is because of where the creek was and that field was, it was landlocked. You couldn't develop on it. It was directly behind people's residences. There was one little entrance where the city wanted to build a park, but it was a floodplain. So anytime we got summer rain, just the whole field just filled in full of water. But when people at the end of the street where we were at and down to our left where there was no property because the creek came down a diagonal, heard that the people up at the top end might be getting this big free chunk of land, they weren't happy about it. And the Civil War got to the point where if, like, Morgan, you lived on my street and you're putting in a privacy fence, at some point during the day when you're at work, one of your neighbors would come down there and fucking measure the height. And if that thing was 2 inches over the city fucking permit, they would call and drop a dime and have a stop order put in your place. Or they would try to get a hold of the last land surveys to see if you're into the easement. They would literally just constantly just blow people up or just try to get the city involved in everything. Me and my buddy Nick, I skateboarded from second grade until after I graduated high school. We're constantly building rail slides, fun boxes, kickers, all that shit out in the street. And so I had this little fun box. It was only about 8 inches tall, but it had a rail slide on it. We'd do no slides, kick flips, and all that shit. One day the cop shows up. Turns out my neighbor called the cops because they got angry that we were skateboarding out in front of our house. I mean, the Civil War that some of these neighborhoods break out with, and I understand there's a potential for someone's property value going up for free land, but trust me, there's been places and towns that have had civil wars for less shit than that. You know, you hear about these neighborhoods where they don't have an official HOA, but everybody's kind of in agreement. And then here comes Mike moving in and he refuses to paint his door either maroon fucking burgundy or goddamn gray. And him and his wife went with a wood grain brown. And now the whole neighborhood's up in arms because he's not matching. Or Morgan, you didn't buy the same color black mailbox. You went with a fucking blue one with a fucking duck on the side just for funsies. And now everybody.
I can tell you this much. You and your HOA can go fuck yourself.
I will never live in an
paint my
HOA.
door whatever the fuck I want. I will do whatever the fuck I want on my property. If I pay for that bitch and I pay the goddamn taxes on it, it's mine.
Gordon had to become a member of his HOA. He lived in an HOA.
Fuck
and,
that.
No fucking way. I remember he tried to get satellite. They wouldn't let him mount a satellite on the side of his house. Living in a house with an HOA is great if you're 70, because the neighborhood will make sure your grass gets mowed and all that shit. But like if you're 30 and not a stick in the mud,
well, like something like that. If there was like community landscaping where everybody
Yeah.
chipped in and paid for a specific company to come in, sure.
but to buy a house, not to rent, but to buy a house in a neighborhood with an HOA is just like renting a fucking apartment or living in a condo. Forget about it. There's no reason to buy property in an
Not doing
HOA
it.
unless you're
Well, it's
carrying
like-
yourself.
That's like I told my wife that, you know, when we start seriously looking, because we were at one point, and you know, I mean, we weren't going out physically.
Then
looking, but
Bidenomics
we were-
kicked around and now nothing's affordable.
Exactly. We were seriously looking into it and, you know, trying to figure it out, and that's where I draw my line. You know, she grew up, I think, in that kind of a neighborhood in like
Mm-hmm.
northern Naples, and I guess she's, you know, okay. You know, I didn't grow up like that. Like I grew up in Cape Coral when I was younger, but when I was 14, I moved to the mountains, and when you ain't got no neighbors, you kind of like it.
Well, Cape Coral
You
was
know.
no slouch back then either. From what I understand, you couldn't even have a truck, let alone a company truck, but you couldn't even have a fucking pickup truck in your driveway back in Cape Coral in the late 90s.
I don't know about that much. I know my dad always had a truck, and I mean he never got, bitched at about that, but company truck, that was a major thing. I think they finally lifted that because it's like, a lot of people live in Cape Coral that have jobs, have own companies and stuff. Like, what are they supposed to do?
You familiar with the song
Yeah.
Alice's Restaurant? A lot of radio stations played around Thanksgiving. You can get
Maybe.
anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. It's a
Maybe.
17-minute long song about how these guys went to Alice's Restaurant, and it was on Thanksgiving, and for some reason somebody had a bunch of trash and needed to take down the trash dump, and the dump was closed, and so they illegally pushed it off of a hill. And then the police was notified of the trash, and they went through the trash, and they found the letters, and then somebody gets called down to the courthouse, and the district attorney has black and white 8x10s with X's and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. So when I moved to Cape Coral and we started at computers, we had a fleet van, and it was right when wrapping became an affordable thing, right? So we had a Chevy fleet van completely wrapped.
Yo, yo, yo.
And I was renting a place with my roommate who was the manager at CompUSA. And at the time, if you had a wrapped fleet van, come to later find out this didn't apply to Escalades, fucking Hummers, simply fleet vans. If you had a fleet van wrapped and you parked it in your driveway, you had to take magnets and cover up the phone number, the web address, and the company name. You couldn't put a tarp on it because that's an eyesore. You couldn't put a car cover on it because it's too difficult to explain the difference to somebody who wants to make an argument of what the difference between a car cover and a blue tarp is. And so then you had to put these magnets on, which one can make the arguments even uglier because now you got this patchwork mosaic of bullshit on someone's van and out front of their house. Not to
Yeah.
mention, if you're not washing your wrap every day, every time you put the magnets on, you're just scratching your fucking wrap. I was at home one day at lunch, and I came out and I had a letter on my window. I got called down to the city of Cape Coral for having my commercial van parked in front of a residential neighborhood for more than an hour because it was a slow day and I was at lunch, and they chalked my tires. And just like Alice's Restaurant, I went down there, I'm standing in City Hall, and up on the wall was a digital version of 8x10s with X's and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining how I broke the fraction of having a commercial vehicle in front of my own fucking property for longer than an hour and a half without covering it up. It's just like the effort and the energy that Cape Coral would go through. They would have an entire docket of these offenders. And I remember this was like 8 months after Hurricane. No, it's a year and a half after Hurricane Charlie. And the reason I remember this is they had some poor lady, to Morgan's point earlier. She was getting code compliance infractions for her broken red pottery roof tiles because they broke in a hurricane. And her backyard was overgrown. Well, it turns out her husband had just had a fucking triple bypass and been laid up in his bed for fucking 4 months. And the city's like, well, by code compliant policy, we can give you a $125 fine for every day past the infraction. And it's been a year, but we'll be nice. We're only going to hit you with like a $1,500 fine. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
No.
It's just so goddamn insane.
Jeez.
Well, that's also like Cape Coral. Like I being in the field that I'm in, they have their own
Cornfield, wheat field,
inspection
football
system.
field, baseball
Like Lee
field.
County, for any kind of inspecting, as far as I know, and I can only speak from the plumbing standpoint of it, but Lee County has zero jurisdiction in Cape Coral.
Yep.
Cape Coral is allowed to inspect all of their own homes. They are allowed to pass or fail any part of construction that they want to,
Mm-hmm.
and Lee County has zero jurisdiction in that. I've never seen a Fort Myers code compliance vehicle go by. Not one.
No, they don't
single
exist. I don't think they
time.
exist. So the reason I laugh, you guys remember the what shitty network was that? I think it used to be Court TV, and then they started playing all those shitty reality shows like the the fake tow truck driving show where they'd go to repossess cars and some guy's like doing bondage on his backyard. What are you talking about? And then they have Turtle Man.
I can talk to you about that.
Repo Man. They had Parking Lot Wars. Remember the people in Pennsylvania that go around?
Yep.
When they filmed the pilot for that, it was a show called Somebody Has to Do It. Not the Mike Rowe version, but this was before that. And the pilot episode included, and the whole thing was horrible jobs. These are jobs that people hate, but somebody has to do it. And in the pilot, it was the Repo Men, the Pennsylvania Transit Authority writing the tickets, and no shit, I saw the pilot. Cape Coral Code Compliance. Cape Coral Code Compliance job was so bad that it was included on the pilot's episode of that show, which then got broken off into Parking Wars and Repo Men. But it was actually a three-piece. And they also had process servers. People had to go out and you've been served. So they'd follow on process servers, Cape Coral.
Yeah,
and I remember
hate those people.
I remember at the time too, this was in the height of right when the housing market began to crash in 08 and all that. This was probably right before that. But I remember the Cape Coral Code Compliance guys like sitting out doing a little B-roll next to his truck. Somebody drove by, fuck you. People drive by screaming at them, cussing them out. I was like, yeah, that's Cape Coral Code Compliance at its finest. Morgan, you had a good topic you wanted to bring up, and this reminded me of a TikTok video I have done, and one of the funnier examples my brother presented to us. So open up about what you want to discuss, and then let me know when you want me to play your clip.
Okay. First of all, let me ask you, if I drop the name Haley Welch, do you have any idea who that is? I know you know, Don, because
I'm not able to participate in this conversation, but the short answer is yes, I would have before I did this clip because I'm down.
Okay. You know who she is, Mike?
Not that I can think of. I mean, is it like pop culture or news or like where should I have known this name from?
She inadvertently became a meme based off of a video she did.
Okay, maybe I might have seen her face then.
Okay.
I don't remember.
If I drop the name Hawktua Girl.
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. That's her name, Haley Welch?
Okay. Haley Welch. So she is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And
nauseatingly,
I saw a clip.
Nauseatingly everywhere.
So I saw yeah. Well, I saw another one, and I don't know where this girl gets this stuff, but she was recounting a story that she told a friend of hers about a guy that was treating her bad, and she goes, just because it's good for the whole doesn't mean it's good for the soul.
Oh yeah, you sent me that video. I remember that.
That reminds me, we used to play Xbox. We used to play Xbox with this slutty girl. Me, Carrie, and our friends, we played Xbox, and every once in a while we played Call of Duty with the slutty girl. And one day out of nowhere, she said, it's not rape if you yell surprise.
I've heard that before.
This came from a girl saying it.
Oh my gosh.
But anyhow, back to your story.
So I see this clip, and she's on Bill Maher's podcast.
Let's stop there real quick before you go. Can we not overlook the fact that this girl was drunkenly explaining how she likes to hydraulically manipulate a gentleman caller by saying
perform fellatio type services
how
on
she
a
likes
gentleman.
how she likes to interact with her gentleman suiter. That's enough to get her on fucking Bill Maher.
I wonder what I got to do to get on Bill Maher.
Spit on that thing.
If it's just because it's good for the whole doesn't mean it's good for the soul.
Surprise!
So, first of all, the whole time I'm watching this thing, it's just Bill Maher being a creepy old dude smoking a blunt.
Naturally.
While, he's talking about what he defines as old rap, which is where the clip comes in.
Which, his example of old rap wasn't old either.
I like old rap, though.
No,
I don't listen to much new rap.
What's old to you, old rap? To me, it's
Let's see.
Jay-Z and Tupac. No? You've heard of Jay-Z.
Yeah, and Tupac. I've heard of both of them. I just
Oh.
don't listen to them like that.
Yeah.
Besides that one song Jay-Z's in. It's like, concrete jungle, wet dream tomato. You know, about New York.
What she said?
So I just
Wet
about
dream to
died.
make. What she say? Concrete. some-
Concrete jungle, wet dream tomato.
So in researching for what we're leading into here, I actually might believe that this is a setup because I ran across a comedian that did that as part of his shtick. So
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
I
like
suppose
a
it's
decade
possible.
prior or something like that, I think.
yeah. So I don't know, but
Maybe that
it
was
got
her
me
way of
thinking about-
trying to hint around about a pop culture reference, but it was so obscure that a stoned Bill Maher didn't even get it. And so then it just made her look dumb, even though she was quoting a joke that she remembered from 10 years ago.
that's entirely possible with this girl. Who knows? But she just keeps coming out with them. But that got me thinking about misheard song lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
there's so many of them. There's actually an article that has like 50 different misheard song lyrics.
there's a British
Um,
comedian that also does the same thing in his live performance. I know I saw a clip that was like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years old that he was doing it back then too, but was doing it with older songs, like 70s and 80s pop songs. And he would say what it was before he would play the song, and then he'd play the song and he'd mouth what he said. And it was
Yeah.
the misheard lyric right there. So yeah.
Before you go down your list, have
Yeah.
you ever had a song lyric that you unknowingly had wrong, but one day while singing it aloud, you sang
Finally
the
got
real
it?
right lyric, and then you had to ask yourself, wait a minute, which one of these is the right lyric? Because I'll give you an example. Culture Wall, he sings that song, Devil Wears a suit and tie. And there's a lyric in the song said, Reverend, please come quick. I met a man out in the sticks. Oh, Reverend, please come quick. A good old miss. I thought it was he drove a Sirius tan Cadillac and wore a cigar on his lips. So always strong. It was a fucking Sirius brown. It was a Sirius tan Cadillac. He wore a cigar on his lip. Sang it for fucking years. I listen to it when I run because I like to listen to folk songs because they're longer songs. It makes your run seem shorter. So I listen to Dead South, Culture Wall. That's how I actually found out about, Zach Bryan years before he blew up. I would listen to these songs. And then one morning, it was like 6 a.m. I'm getting up to get dressed and I'm singing that song. And I'm like, he drove a Series 10 Series 10. Was that? Know nothing about fucking Cadillac. I know they had S10 trucks, S1500s. Series 10. I Googled it, and lo and behold, Series 10 is a model of fucking a Cadillac. And so this whole time I've been saying Series 10 Cadillac. No, he drove a Series 10 Cadillac and wore a cigar on his lip. But somehow at fucking 6 a.m, nice clarity, wasn't listening to the song, just singing it out loud while I'm putting on my shoes. I inadvertently got the right lyric.
I would do
I've
that
had that happen.
sometimes.
I can't cite a specific example, but and then you just kind of look at yourself and shake your head like, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
Well, let me give you an example. My brother messed up. He got me, so long before Under the Bridge, Red Hot Chili Peppers wasn't even a thing. We're talking back in Red Hot Chili Peppers Uplift Mode Party Plan, Red Hot Chili Peppers Mother's Milk, and all that. Gordon would listen to that because when I was in middle school, he was in high school, but he hung out. We lived in the suburbs of Columbus, so he went downtown on OSU campus and would listen to the college music. So we're listening to shit, once again, Red Hot Chili Peppers was not being played on the radio yet. Under the Bridge hadn't been written. Give It Away had not been written. This is the old funk stuff that sounded like George Clinton. And we would skateboard to it. And they have a song that goes, me and my friends. Okay, me and my friends. Gordon, for whatever reason, thought he was saying "pee on my friends." Why the fuck would you sing? And then I'm singing it one day.
That's a special kind of
And he's
friend.
like, I thought they were saying "pee on my." I guess it makes sense from the band who fucking played naked shows with socks on their dicks. But he literally thought for like 2 years he would sing it "pee on my friends."
There's a popular one from that song from the 90s, I'm Blue by Eiffel 65.
Okay, blue.
If I was green, I would die.
I'm blue. If I was green, I would die. Okay.
It's dabba dee dabba da or whatever it is. And I always thought that same thing, listening to it just on a, cheesy, shitty radio that back then we didn't really have hi-fi shit if you were buying a Radio Shack radio with one speaker in it. So, you'd listen to it and it goes, I'm blue. If I was green, I would die. And
I never heard that one.
like plenty of kids in school that I knew were listening to that and saying the same shit. And then when we finally, when the internet became, way more popular and we were more interested in stuff like that, and everybody ended up having a personal computer in their fucking house, it came out, oh, well, that's wrong. That's not the fucking lyrics at all.
Speaking
part
of
the song.
Speaking of lo-fi audio, when the Family Guy first ran, it was on back old 20-inch fucking tube TVs. Unless you were rich, you had a projection TV.
Dewey.
At the intro of the song, when Stewie comes out and says what does he say? Make us
Laugh and cry.
Mm-hmm.
That's but
I thought for years he said effing cry. Not the full word, but the abbreviated effing cry. And then I remember I was singing that for years, and like fucking 10 years, 15 years, I sing in front of Carrie. She's like, that's not it says laugh and cry, you dumbass. No, it's effing cry. No.
Think about it though. Go back to like season 1 on like Hulu or something like that and restart it and listen to it. If they haven't updated the intro on all those episodes and it's still the original intro, I think Seth MacFarlane had to change it because Fox told him to.
Was it originally effing cry?
I don't know. I don't know that specifically, but I know there's a difference between the first, few seasons and now.
Because
He
I always
clearly
thought
says something different.
I always thought that was the wink
Well-
at the camera, because when that show came out, it was still the time when the PMRC was still big. You had the Christian fucking Parents Network trying to legalize video games and music. And that show was known for its bad behavior and worse than The Simpsons. So, the little hint is effing cry. But I don't know.
Yeah,
well, all I
because
know about the early seasons of that is you can tell that they didn't mix the sound right because, of course, Seth MacFarlane doing all the voices originally, Brian's track is not synced properly with everything else.
The thing is when that show first came out, myself included, because we didn't know who he was, I always thought the guy who played Niles on Frasier did Stewie's voice.
that makes a lot of sense.
Interesting.
Sure.
It's almost like Seth is imitating Niles on Frasier, doing that uppity, snobby voice. To me, I just assumed it was the actor Niles.
Yeah, like American British accent.
Yeah, the rich.
Well, he actually talked about that on Graham Norton. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
He's
There's a great
been on there a few
clip
times.
Yeah, there's a great clip of him talking about where the inspiration for these characters came from, and he actually said he modeled it after Rex Harrison,
Okay.
who's a
remember
British
that, yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
Did you hear the 9/11 tie-in with him?
Seth MacFarlane?
Yeah, Adam Carolla tells a story all the time. Seth MacFarlane is kind of known for being late. He kind of does his own thing. Well, apparently on 9/11, he was supposed to fly to California, and he was running late. He got to the airport in time, but he was rushing, and the stewardess said, hey, you can try to run down there, or there's another flight in an hour and a half. So he said, fuck it, book me on that flight. I'm going to go sit down in the bar. So he went and sat down on the bar. The plane that hit the second tower was the plane he was supposed to be on if he would have showed up at the airport on fucking time.
Yeah.
So
that shit's wild, man.
So you got a list in front of you?
Yeah, for sure.
There was a few things that happened right around 9/11 that didn't happen because I think there was a few albums out that were supposed to come out at the time, and a few artists decided not to put them out because their album art, their covers or whatnot, or their booklet inside, or the back cover or whatever had something explicit on it that was a little bit, I guess, tongue in cheek, right? Um, about, because they didn't want to release it because it wouldn't look right with that happening at that time. So
Well, I think they went a little over the top with a bunch of that stuff because
sure,
I think I can't remember if it was the first Spider-Man movie that came out or which one it was, but it was a Spider-Man movie.
yeah,
And on the poster, they had him slinging webs to each of the twin towers
yeah.
and swinging through the middle of them.
Mm,
And they made him change the poster art for that.
yeah.
There was a movie, great movie, featuring Tim Allen and Johnny Knoxville that was released like I think the week before or right around that time. What was the release date? You guys familiar with this movie, Big Trouble?
Yeah.
So it came
It's
Johnny
not
Knoxville, Tim Allen, the chick from Thomas Crown Affair, she's so hot. Rene Russo. It got pushed to late 2002 because it was supposed to be released the weekend after 9/11, except for the problem is a big point of the movie takes place at an airport, a plane, and a bomb. And so they've been working on this fucking movie, pre-recording it, and then something like that happens. And even though you wait an extra 8 months to release it, no one was in the mood to have that sort of content in a movie. And so it basically went straight to it was a great movie. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's one of those things.
Did it bomb at the box office?
Yeah, it died at the box office.
Boom.
It had
Yeah.
Tim Allen, Rene Russo,
mean to do
Stanley
that, but-
Tucci, Tom Sizemore. I mean, it had a huge cast.
Yeah.
Well, and then they did a special edit of Juicy by Biggie, where they took out
Back blowing
Time
up
to
like
Get
the World
Paid, Blow
Trade.
Up like the World Trade.
Twisted has that in one of their
And-
songs too.
Yeah.
Who does?
Twisted has it in one of their songs from the early 2000s before 9/11. It said, "I'm back blowing up like the World Trade." Big Trouble. I'm seeing what the Rotten Tomato score is on this. Big Trouble, 2002. Tomato meter 48%.
It
Audience
hasn't even gotten any better over the
audience gave it a 54%, so the audience liked it better. But yeah, with a large cast of frantic comics pacing, Big Trouble labors for slapstick style hilarity, but never really gained steam. But I thought it was a good movie. So you have a list in front of you of songs that the people tend to mess up. Let's turn this into a little bit of a sporting affair. You give us the name of the band and let's see if we can guess the song.
Okay, we'll start with Madonna.
Madonna,
Like a Virgin?
Like a Prayer.
Okay, point to Mike.
Ooh, let me keep
Now,
score.
for bonus points,
Oh shit.
what's the misheard lyric?
I don't remember. I don't know. I barely
Don?
remember how that song goes.
I don't want to show my age, but I grew up in a time where if you were a straight young man at the age of 12, you would have your day
Stoned.
ruined if anybody heard you listen to Madonna. So we
Tarred
went out
and
of our way
feathered.
not to listen to Madonna. We were listening to Bon Jovi and Testament and Dead Milkmen and Skid Row.
Fuck you, mom.
So the lyric is touched for the very first time,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
the misheard lyric is touched for the 31st time.
No, someone was
Which, with
trying
Madonna,
there.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Well, that makes sense.
She
but
would probably
heard
feel
that.
like a virgin after 31 times.
that doesn't make sense because even when Weird Al did Like a Surgeon, I think he kept that line. But yeah.
Well,
yeah.
actually, it was his was like a surgeon cutting for the very first time.
Yeah, but he didn't say cutting for
And
the
then in the
33rd
end,
time.
where it was, where she says, "Can't you hear my heartbeat for the very first time?"
Yeah.
His was, "Can't you hear my heartbeat for the very last time?"
Yep.
So,
So point to
all right,
Mike.
so point to Mike. So we'll go a little bit more into maybe something more palatable.
Okay.
Nirvana.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Okay, point to Mike.
Well, you didn't let me guess. You gotta at least
Bonus
let me throw
point
one out there that
if
wasn't
you can
right.
guess
I could
what
have said the same
misheard lyric
thing. I
is.
could have said the same thing. Got a fucking tie.
Fuck.
Some,
I think it's part of the chorus. But
instead
I
of a
can't guess it.
libido, my mosquito has something to do with mosquito.
Yeah, okay, you get credit for that one.
Half a
The
point.
correct lyric, it says here, is a mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido. And some people have heard, I'm a lion, I'm a vinyl, I'm a skittle, I'm a beetle. So,
Do you know why that song's called
Uh,
"Smell Like Teen Spirit"? In his novel, in the book about him called "Heavier Than Heaven," I think that's the name of it. They're talking about when they were, I don't know, he's probably 19 or whatever. They're all living in their band house. He liked this girl that was a friend of one of the other guy's girlfriend, and they were making out and kissing. And she went and wrote on his wall, "Kurt smells like Teen Spirit," because that was the deodorant the girl he was fucking around with was wearing. And so that's where the "Smells Like Teen Spirit" comes from for that song. Next,
Fun fact.
fun factoid number 2.
okay, you know what? I don't like that one. Here we go. Elton John.
Tiny
Ooh,
Dance.
wait a
No,
minute.
Rocket Man.
I'm gonna
You
go
should
Tiny
have
Dancer.
stuck with your gut, Don.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go Tiny Dancer.
So
That's a
help me
weird
God,
fucking
if you
song,
say
man.
"So Hold Me Close," Tony Danza, you're done because he wasn't even a name when that song came out.
I am just being a good journalist and reporting the facts.
I'm just.
It's
Do I
says
get a
here
half a
on
point?
this-
Does it have anything to do with Tony Danza?
It does.
Okay,
It's
I'm up to
Hold Me
1
Closer,
point
Tony
now.
Danza.
I'm up to 1 point now. 3-1. Long road to get there, but I got 1 point.
All right. So how about Europe?
Europe.
Final countdown, was that Europe?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
Europe. So point to Don.
Woo!
Bonus, if you can get the lyric.
I don't know all the words to that song other than it's the final countdown.
I'm trying to think of it.
So the correct lyric is, "We're heading for Venus."
Okay.
And the misheard lyric is, "We're working for peanuts."
That's plausible. I can see that one. It's better than "Hold Me Close," Tony Danza, even though when that song came out in the 60s, no one knew who the fuck he was.
Hold me closer, Tiny Dancer.
Hey, come on now. That was 70s, man. That was when I was a kid.
I wasn't even familiar with that song
so-
until Almost Famous came out in the late 90s. I'm a golden god.
So a quick thing. Did you ever see the Volkswagen commercial where they were trying to hype their sound system and they used Rocket Man and everybody's driving along in their Volkswagen Golf
Mm-hmm.
singing to Rocket Man with all the wrong lyrics? Funny stuff, man.
I didn't see that. No.
Didn't Elton John make a promo in that? Didn't he make an appearance in that?
I think he might have.
I think he was like in one of the cars, like looking like, what the fuck?
All right. We'll go more in Dawn's wheelhouse here for a minute. Pearl Jam.
Oh, I know.
Jeremy.
Oh, point to Mike. What's the lyric?
I think it has something to do with Jeremy spoke in class today. I don't know what the misheard lyric is though.
Jeremy smoking crack today.
That might be it.
Close. You get
Another
half a point for that one.
2.5
at least.
points to 4.
It's Jeremy smoking grass today.
Okay.
Speaking of
Of
Pearl
course,
Jam,
All of those songs from back then had probably hundreds of misheard lyrics off of those. Off of
now
those singers.
keep in mind this song "Daughter" was written in the late '90s, long before the transgender was a thing. They just called them hermaphrodites, or back then, or cross dressers. I
transvestites.
always jokingly said the song "Daughter" was about a tranny. Don't call me daughter, not fit to. The pictures left will remind me. Yeah.
Don't call me daughter.
Not fit to be. The
Oh, God, I
pictures
hate
left
grunge.
will
I hate
remind me.
And I'm from the Northwest.
You know, all grunge
man,
is.
That's your scene, dog. That's your scene.
My brother's friend, who was a guitar player, broke it down. You know the difference between rock and grunge?
What?
Of course, now it don't apply to modern day rock either, but at the time, the differentiating between rock, hair band rock, just rock, and grunge was rock music without the guitar solo. There was no guitar solos in grunge music. You might be able to find one in a Soundgarden song somewhere, but a majority of them did not have that guitar lick breakdown you would hear in all the
I'd
rock
say
songs at the time.
Pearl Jam probably did that too. I think they had a couple of guitar solos in their songs too. But you are right, thinking about it. I mean, you don't really.
They're not known for their long Eddie Van.
Yeah.
There's no Eddie Van Halen of the grunge scene. Give us one more, and then I want to go on to Mike's question.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh boy.
This is all for all the marbles.
Oh,
My
we
two
can
and a half
we can
to
keep
4.
going with his. I'm having fun with this.
Okay, we'll go do a few more.
All right. Well, then I'll give you this one. Creedence Clearwater Revival. We'll go
Shit.
way back.
Okay,
Fucking-
it's Bad
what?
Moon Revival, and it's So Help Me God. If you say there's a bathroom on the right, I'm fucking done.
I'm saying up around the bend.
That's what it says here.
Oh fuck.
That's what it
There's a
says
bathroom
here, I
on the
don't know.
right. So I get 1 for guessing the band, 2 for guessing the song. That puts me at 4.5 points. I'm up by half a point.
All right. How about Kiss?
Detroit Rock City.
It's not Beth, is it?
No.
First one, big. Wow, neither one up until this point we were able to guess the song. So you said it's not
So
not
it's,
Detroit Rock City, not Beth.
It's you want to know?
Yep.
Rock and Roll All Night.
I wanna rock and
So,
roll all night.
I want to rock and roll all night and part of every day.
I could see maybe some old fuddy
Part
duddy
of
at the
every
time
day.
thinking that when they're listening
I mean,
to that on
that's,
the
you
AM
know,
radio in their
I-
square body Chevy. You know, kind of like you did last Tuesday.
I want to rock and roll till 9 and part of every day. That's what happens when you.
You know, when
hit
we're
50,
introducing
you know?
Morgan
Right.
to underground hip hop, making him listen to ICP. I think it's only appropriate he should listen to Shotgun Shane Square Body Chevy while he rolls up and down McGregor in his truck. Those country hip hop boys,
All
they
right,
love a
I
good
gotta-
square body Chevy.
Oh yeah.
What is a box
Let's see
Chevrolet?
here.
Morgan, you hold your tongue. You probably know. What is a box Chevrolet? I know you listen to Yellow Wolf. He said, "In my Chevrolet, my box Chevrolet." Boom, boom, boom.
Are you
boom,
asking
boom,
me?
boom. Yep. Boom, 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 boom.
Fucking 80s G bodies.
Like such as
Close.
Monte Carlos.
Yeah, those were
Caprice,
box Chevys.
fucking- yeah.
what were they?
No, a box was a full size Caprice from 78 to 89, 88 or 89.
I think
Okay,
they made.
I was
So
close
you got-
enough.
Well,
though. I
to
said,
give
I
Mike
said 80s G bodies, Monte Carlos Caprices, fucking.
to
what's
give him
the
credit. I
Oldsmobile?
think
G-body.
I
The G-body was the Pontiac Grand Prix, the Buick
Grand Prix.
Regal,
I think the hip hop.
and
I think
the Chevy Monte Carlo.
I think the
Yeah.
Southern hip hop community appropriated the name because, to Mike's point, they do refer to them as the Monte Carlos, the Buick Regals.
Yes.
My mom had a Buick Regal that was a hand-me-down from my grandparents. Any of them with that square, the square
Oh, yeah.
lines, I think they've appropriated. But in the rap context, when
Okay.
you hear My Box Chevrolet, they're talking about like a Buick Regal.
So for your
Well, see-
generation, that would be true, and then for my generation, that would also be true.
So if you get down to it, if you get like into the like the
Minutia,
Physical dimensions.
I don't know. Yeah,
nomenclature,
so you got
engineering
a
specs,
donk, a box, and a bubble.
the white papers.
If you're talking about that. So a donk is like from 71 to 76.
What is the
for a
official
Caprice.
size rim one needs to be labeled a true donk?
I'd say probably at least a
23,
20.
20?
The bigger the better.
Do you remember? I
Ridiculous.
remember when I moved from Ohio to California. That's when the Dubs came out. Everybody, oh, did you see that Escalade had 20-inch rim, 20-inch rims? And that was a thing. Like, holy shit, he had 22s. Holy fuck, 22s. Nowadays, my Tundra came with fucking 19s on it.
My fucking Titan's got 20s.
No,
on
I'm sorry,
it.
my Tundra has 20s on it. If you think about it now, it's like, why the
My S10 had 15s.
It's like trucks with 13-inch rims look fucking dumb unless it's a fucking step side Ford.
But see, it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other because if you remember back in the 80s,
It was huge, tall fucking sidewalls. Mud
sidewalls,
Back
but it
in
was
the-
also really tiny fucking wire wheels too.
Yeah, the honey spokes.
Well,
Dayton.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was 13-inch true spoke Dayton's.
13-inch Daytons,
So,
exactly. And then
Yeah,
when it came into
Dayton's with Vogues, man.
yeah,
But
when
just-
it came into the early to mid 2000s, when that was like Southern hip hop was like the big thing was back then, it fucking went the completely other side of the spectrum, and they're running like 24s on Escalades and shit like that.
I love.
Mhm.
Look, I spent a large part of my life poor. I get it, but I was never one of those poor people who wanted to emulate rich people. So I didn't have my knockoff starter jacket. I wasn't going to Walmart and buying and ones because I couldn't afford Jordans. Remember when Spreewells came out in the early 2000s, speaking of 22-inch rims? The original name for
Spreewell?
spinners were Spreewells because the basketball player Spreewell was the first person to have spinners.
Oh, really?
And I had just moved to Long Beach, and I remember seeing spinners for the first time. The big fucking piece of cast metal that's bolted on the front of the rim. Our secretary at Lunar Pages, she had an Escalade with 22-inch spinners on it, and that was the big thing, right? So anytime somebody bring in to Pimp My Ride or any of those car shows, you got to have spinners, man.
Yeah.
And then poor people doing what poor people do. There's a company who wants to make money off of poor people. And so then you would see like the super poor cats like with their fucking Grand Prix and
Plastic wheel
their Honda
covers.
Civic. They would get
Plastic
the
wheel that
plastic
snapped
wheel
in.
cover. It looked like it had a fucking little fin off of a fucking beanie spinning on it.
Wait, and if you spun it by hand,
And unlike spinners,
Oh my gosh, those things would vibrate going down the road so bad.
spinners were almost the complete diameter of the rim, with the exception of the flat part.
These were
Usually
smaller.
like 7.5 inches. They look more like
It was like a blade off of a 10-inch fan.
it looked like remember how like you had like the airplane movies, the spoof movies, right? Or like
yeah.
History of the World Part 1. They would always have the spoof comedy version of the fucking Romans and their chariots, and they'd have the little blades on the wheels. These guys look like they're having Honda Civics with fucking chariot spinning things on their blades. Like, holy fuck, dude. It's like, come on, really? They don't look anything like the real thing. I mean, I can kind of get it if you want to put on a super big ass wing that's actually destroying your gas mileage. But when you have this it looks like you stole it off some kindergartner's fucking pinwheel out in his yard and strapped it to your rim. Like, whee!
Speaking of the wing, I love seeing front wheel drive Honda Civics with a fucking wing on it. That's my those are my favorite kind of morons. My favorite kind of morons, because the whole point of that is to keep the ass end on the ground and give more traction to the rear end. You're not doing anything.
Well, actually, you're undoing because you're loading the rear end and
you're
unloading
lifting the front.
end, so you're actually losing traction.
Put it on the hood. Don't put it on the fucking trunk lid.
I actually knew a guy who raced Civics, and he put one on the hood.
I've seen that
So-
actually. I've actually seen that as a thing. Front wheel drive cars will put wings on the front as for downforce for the front end. And that they've got like fucking
Yeah.
cables and shit running all over the place and all kinds of weird shit.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Too much fun.
I was trying to find this promo.
Uh-oh.
Growing up and being in my high school age, you know, we were all just fucking high school dudes. If you're not like in band club or fucking sports teams, you're just an asshole trying to look to piss everybody off. And so me being a skateboarder in a time when everybody hated skateboarders, it was, you know, fucking rebel without a cause. I was just cynic and just didn't follow the trends just because I didn't want to be one of those assholes. Kind of like a natural born killer. You don't sound like you're from Texas. Oh, I don't want to sound like those assholes. Hey, I'm from Texas. Not those assholes, the other assholes. I didn't want to be one of those assholes. And so anything that even remotely had some sort of pop culture thing, I was like, yeah. MTV had its promo at the time when hydraulics were popular on cars.
Shit.
And on the MTV commercial, they're bouncing, and there's a stoner. He's like, oh, it hops, man, it hops. Well, at the front of our neighborhood where our school bus was, there was a house, and the guy had two, they're probably 91, maybe 89, 91 S10s. They had the fiberglass fucking bed cover. Remember how they'd take the windshield out and they'd put the boot so they could hear the subwoofers in the trunk? He had hydraulics on it, and he also had the bed that lifted up, too, on the other truck. So one of them had the subwoofers in the trunk with the rear window removed with the boot to the fiberglass, so it's all kind of like a fucking Suburban without the seats and a firewall in between. And the other one, the bed lifted up and rotated, and they had hydraulics on it. He was out there digging his hydraulics one morning. We're all at the bus stop going, it hops, man, it hops. And he's going, like, fuck you guys. And I just had a flashback of that commercial. It hops, man. We're out there, it hops, man, it
funny.
hops. Give us another one off
too
your list,
funny.
and we'll get to Mike's question.
All right. In Sync. This ought to be easy.
I didn't know any NSYNC. I do know Justin Timberlake. Don't know if he was part of NSYNC. I knew he had that song where he said everybody thinks it's. He says it's going to be May, but NSYNC, I have no idea.
Bye, bye, bye.
Ding, ding, ding.
It's going to be May.
So you got the band, or you got the song, and you got the misheard lyric. So you get 2 points.
Mike. The biggest comeback in the history of What's in Your Head podcast history. I was down 0.5 point to 3. Came up, it was 4-1 or 3-1. Now it's 4. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 points. So I made a comeback, and that half point is worth every
You made
last
it.
fucking bit.
You made a Kim Kardashian.
This has been a Digital 410 production.